Okay, so good evening and hello everyone. Welcome to this interview preparatory session that we at Geo Institute have organized. Joining us today are our panel members, Ms. Mendes, Abhishek, Amit, and Ms. Bindu, who will be helping you or just talking about the different parameters on which an individual will be assessed during their admission interviews at Geo Institute, and also just giving you some tips or some strategies of how to crack admission interviews, not just at Geo Institute, but at various other colleges, that are there in the country or elsewhere. And just from their vast experience, talk a little bit about what really are the few things that one should keep in mind when they're entering that interview room. So I'll just start by the first question that that's a very common question or a general question that a lot of students have that in their mind, which are what according to you are the if somebody asks you what are the three major tips or keys that you'd like to give to an applicant when they are just entering the interview room. So probably we can start with you, Miss Mendes. Ma'am, yeah.
Before we begin, I'd just like to say, I hope you all, whoever's listening is excited. Just stop for a moment, close your eyes and say, today I'm going to learn something new. Okay, I can't see you, but do that. So if I would say there are many strategies which you would use, many tips, but since she's asked for three, I will just mention three. The first is your mindset. Everything starts in the mind, or every fight, every war is fought in the mind. Because if you can believe it, that you can do it, it will happen, right? You know that. So a winning mindset, a confident and positive attitude is the first beginning. And self-confidence is just the belief that you are enough, you have whatever it is to take to get you that admission. And when you have this positive mindset, it also helps you to showcase your abilities and your skills in a better manner. Certainly avoid comparison with others. You remember when Shah Rukh Khan, I think it's well known, was asked in an interview, why did he choose to join Bollywood, which was, such a cutthroat competition? And he said, I always believe that I compete with myself. And so I know that success will come along the way. So treat it just like another challenge which you have faced, and treat it like a conversation, not as an interrogation, so that you can have a confident approach. The second is, will actually be the first. Make a good first impression. That's the key for anything when you meet anybody, interview or anything else. And this has a few aspects. The first is, of course, appearance. Dress professionally, even if it is a virtual interview. Dress to impress, dress for success, because the way you dress will be the way you will be addressed. So don't carry too many things with you. Just take your resume and your certifications in a professional looking portfolio. Dress professionally, avoid chunky jewelry, avoid any fancy dress or makeup. Keep your body language confident. Make eye contact. I want you, all of you who are looking, actually, to just look at me just now. Am I making eye contact with you? Do you feel that I'm speaking to you? Yeah. Now look, do you feel that I'm speaking to you? No. So eye contact in person is comfortable eye contact. Eye contact virtually is always looking into the camera. Even if the session is interviews 45 minutes, you won't look at yourself or the interviewer. Clear? Also, your posture needs to be your shoulders drawn back, your head tall, so that you walk in confidently. Make a friendly introduction. You can take the initiative of making the introduction, like, nice to meet you. Thank you for your time. Not my name is so-and-so, etc. be punctual. And what is punctual? Punctual is 5 or 10 minutes before time. On time is late. So be clear on these things. And as far as I said dress, let me just tell you, it reminds me of a story actually. There was one candidate who went to an interview dressed like a gypsy, with his hair all ruffled and his clothes dirty and his hair he was smelling, and his shoes were covered with mud. The interviewer politely told him to come back the next week. Next week he turns up, guess what, dressed in the same way. But that candidate was the famous actor George Clooney. Now you and I are not mostly applying for a character's for an actor's role, so make sure you're properly dressed. And the third tip, I would say, do thorough research. 4 areas in which you need to do thorough research. First, yourself, your traits, your interests, your values, how they align with Geo. Then you need to research the website and the vision, mission, etc. of Geo very carefully. Research their curriculum. Last tip, research the interviewer. Why? Because you want to make a bond with the interviewer. The only reason you get selected is that you make the person likes you, you're credible, and you're memorable. So in order to be liked, try and find some commonality. Find out the interviewer. You can do it very easily through LinkedIn. Your searches, you can easily get to find out who is the interviewer. So I would say these are the 3 things I would keep in mind, as general tips.
Thank you, ma'am. Abhishek, do you want to add something to Ms. Mendes's 3 tips?
Yeah, I think I'm going to struggle to follow up from that. Thank you, ma'am. I really appreciate that. I think to everybody on the call, right? First of all, I think attending something like this is a fantastic first step, right? And I think a lot of credit goes to Geo Institute to have the foresight, the maturity, and just the open-heartedness to say that we will conduct a session like this. Not only that, it helps students to understand how to go about their interview. More importantly, this is the application season. So, like everything that Geo and Reliance does, there is a greater good at play, and it's almost expected of them. But I think it's always great to see that always being put into practice. So I would like to call that out. But let me come to 3 points. Very nicely said. In fact, Brenda ma'am, you took my first point away, so I'm going to add a new one. Um, I think the biggest thing in today's world, be authentic, be yourself. There is too much of a facade in the world today, right? We're all struggling. We all lived 2 or 3 different lives, one on Instagram, one on LinkedIn, one on Twitter, one on Snapchat, and then effectively one real life somewhere. And in fact, even in that, what is in front of our friends and family is probably even different than ours. I work in a company we're no longer a startup, but I have a lot of young people, and I see how they interact with their friends and family is very different from who they are actually at work and who they are actually in person, right? So be authentic, right? Be who you are, because it's very, very refreshing. I think it's very simple, right? Be authentic, be yourself. People like to see that. You'd be very surprised. Um, Second, I want people to understand this concept very simply. Understand the difference between listening and hearing. An interview is a lot about listening, not hearing. What we do is we listen. We don't listen to questions. We hear a question and we start responding in our mind even before the interviewer starts has finished the question. Interestingly enough, most of us start speaking, and it's an involuntary reaction, right? It's like when the doctor hits your leg with that small whatever hammer, and your leg goes up. Just by hearing a question, we are programmed because of giving exams and time tests and mental maths that we start giving an answer. Remember, the difference between listening and hearing is listening is about intention. You listen with intent. You're trying to understand, you're trying to process without judgment, without giving an answer to the other person. So listen first, don't hear, right? I think the third piece is, please remember, you live in the world of influencing, not persuading, right? Don't be a TV ad, be a be a social media influencer. The whole point in an interview is not to just leave one or two spikes in the interview, is to be very consistent in terms of influencing your interviewer. Remember, an interview is about performance, but the bigger thing is the perception of the performance, right? So the interviewer must walk away with being influenced by you, not persuaded by you, right? A TV ad may ask you to buy something and you may buy it once and never buy it again. But the reason why we stick around with all these social media influencers, they are very consistent with their messaging, and the theme and the tone and everything that they have about them is very consistent. Again, that is something in today's world is very fresh, right? There are so many things, there's so much volatility, there's so much inconsistency. If you are consistent, you are going to influence people. Your consistency is going to be very, I can use that word, is very sexy. Consistency is very sexy in today's world, right? Because there's so much happening. And I think those are the three things I would say. And I think at the end, I would all say to everyone, right? Please have fun. Don't walk into an interview with the weight of the world, right? Um, I've, I've been around and worked for long enough that I've done enough interviews both in the corporate world for admissions for my own alma maters where I've worked, where I've studied. And students walk in, young people walk in with the weight of the world, the expectations of the world on their shoulders. You can see that person and you can see that they're already beaten before the interview started, right? Don't walk in with the weight of the world on your shoulders. Have fun. You're going to do many interviews in your life. You're going to be very successful. You're going to be far more successful than all these people, on the panelists and all the people on this call. You know why? Because you're in a country which is going up and up and up. You're far ahead of us. You have far more resources than us. So don't walk in with the weight of the world, right? We probably were not blessed and born in a time when India was doing well. India is doing fantastic right now. The world you are surrounded with is doing very well. So don't worry about that. I think that would be my sort of closing thought on that.
Thanks, Abhishek.
I
And I
hope that
think
makes sense.
I am also just a little bit more pumped right now in life and in general. So thank you
Yeah,
for
I
that.
think yeah. There's enough to keep us negative, right? The other way
Absolutely
to look at it is there's so much to be positive about,
true.
right? And I think if you walk in with that positivity, you change the atmosphere of the room, even if you are behind this small little screen, which I am right now. I'm probably 3 inches on most schemes,
True.
or probably even smaller on, right? So even even that small screen, you can bring a lot of positivity to the conversation.
Thank you. Amit, a lot of pressure now for your three tips, but over to you.
Sorry, Amit.
Yeah, I think our panelists, Brenda ma'am and Abhishek, you have covered most of the points, and some of the points I really wanted to make. But I think, just to continue what Brenda ma'am talked about and what Abhishek you also talked about. See, one thing is, you have to take this. Don't take this as an interview. Think of this as a conversation. So the interviewer wants to know you. You want to know the interviewer. You want to know what Geo Institute is all about. So this is an experience that you would have together. This is a conversation. So think of it as a conversation. Second, I would say prepare well. So practice as much as you can. Practice all common interview questions, and develop some responses. So practice speaking out loud and clearly. Practice with a friend. Practice with someone experienced in that domain. I'm sure you would find someone in at your work or at any other place. Maybe practice with your parents. Practice with your friends. But make sure you practice, because that would help you build that confidence. Only practice will help you build that confidence. And with that practice, you can always steer the interview in the direction that you would want. So this is the third important point. You would want to steer the interview in the direction that you would want and not let it go in any other direction. And how can you do that? See, when you start any interview, there would be a question like this: tell me about yourself. So there would be an icebreaker kind of a question. So, with that first question itself, if we can steer it in a direction that you would want, okay, this is what I am about, and this is the kind of project that I have done, and this is what interests me, then this is the conversation that two people are having. Then very naturally, the interviewer, the person at the other end, would ask you about that interest. So you're steering the interview in the direction that you would want. See, it's only a 30-minute conversation, or 25 minutes, 30 or 40 minutes kind of a conversation. So in that conversation, if you can steer it in the direction that you want, you have won the interview and you would be successful. So those are the three things I would like to add.
Thanks. Thank you, Amit. And I think they're very, very valid. And I would like to end this question by asking Miss Bindu if she has, because she's one person who at office also is absolutely crisp. Whenever we've gone to her with a question that what do we do in this situation, she will give you these 4-5 key points that really stick with us. So, Heems, what are your 3 tips for
Thanks,
our
Ritu. I think all the panelists have covered it thoroughly. The only thing is I would probably add value by, saying like when Brenda says grooming. If you have a ponytail, ensure you have gel in it and it's well combed and groomed. For sure. Please be cool, not an issue at all. And that's fine by us because we like to see different people and we invest a lot in diversity. That's very important to us. And like Abhishek said, don't come with the weight of the world, be cool, be confident, and that's half the game won. Try and look at each interviewer in the eye and influence, ensure that you're giving equal time to everybody. And as to what Amit has said, the only value I can add is a lot of times I've interviewed people for the first 30 minutes and haven't been able to see a character in them. And then they say something like, in Korea, they do this. And I said, why Korea? Then he tells me that, I went to Korea, learned Korean and all that. Half an hour of the interview and he hasn't showcased that, which was the key point. So ensure, like Amit was saying, steer the conversation where you want. A lot of times when you're honest and you don't know, I don't know the answer to this, but there's this interesting fact which I did in the LG factory. Could be where you're steering the conversation and taking it to highlight some of the essentials or key highlights and achievements of your career. Please ensure they're not, missed out on, because even we want to know about you. We see a lot of vanilla candidates. We want to see what these highlights are. So please don't miss out. Even if we don't ask that question, we give you a window at the end or the start of the conversation saying, is there anything else you would like to share about yourself? Or is there anything that has changed from the time of your application to now? Use that window to showcase these things, which are highlights, and say, it may be not a great thing, but I'm a national chess champion. Would be a great thing because we've never thought of chess. We are talking about your career and other things. Okay, so please use these windows appropriately to showcase yourself, because this could be the actual winner for you. Okay, that's all.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I think, to everyone, I think we've received some amazing tips that are really going to help you perform, in your interview. I'm just going to, move on to the next part of it, because one of the key factors of these interview will be where our panelists will be kind of assessing you on your domain knowledge, talking a little bit about what you've done in your past. So, my question to the panelists is that what advice or strategies would you recommend for our applicants when a domain question is kind of, asked to them? So, How do they approach this question? Do they take the route of using an example, or should they not do something like this and just stick to like a concise answer when they're talking about the domain knowledge? So again, we can start with you, Brenda, ma'am.
Well, I haven't really dwelt on this, but I think it is you have to, because today we are in a world of AI and data analytics. So you just have to have that perception of how the industry, how is AI changing the industry in which you are looking to targeting. What kind does that industry have? Yeah, what is the threat in that industry that AI could have? Does that industry have a long runway? How are its competitors dealing with the technical knowledge and domain? And where are you at that level? At least have you uh, experimented with some of the new tools? And are you expecting that at the end of this, how are you going to use this 1 year of with Geo to actually prepare yourself to for the future of work? Because the future of work is going to be very, very different. We all know that. And the domain knowledge also is going to be different. A lot of people will be, maybe some will be rendered jobless, but many new jobs will come. So you need to know what are the new jobs that would be coming. Higher level AI, maybe prompters, prompters or cybersecurity, or these areas you need to investigate to see where you fit in and where your expertise could come in. So it is different. It would be different for different industries. And also the new innovations that are coming in. Are you prepared? I mean, are you that kind of an innovative person, who innovation is what? Just putting creativity to find in a different area to make new products. Like, Steve Jobs combined the computer and the phone, though he never wanted a phone, but it came out that way. So how are you sort of trying to innovate in your job career? Whatever you're learning is also something that you can apply to your career. For instance, design thinking may be one of the topics you're learning. This is not really domain knowledge, but there is absolutely great model to use design thinking to your job search. So these are the kind of things I would like you to, so that you can articulate yourself as somebody who's already planning to be future ready with the new domain knowledge. And of course, Abhishek will be able to give us more insight into the AI tools and all that would be coming in, and probably also Amit. But this is my general approach, that most people the parents aren't aware. So the students also, are not conscious. Now that you're planning to join Geo, you need to give evidence that you are planning to be future ready, and you're going to use this time to pick up these new skills. Like, in the first revolution, we had the blue collar workers, then we had the second industrial revolution, we had the white collar workers. Now we have the green collar workers, the sustainability, the intellectual, the thinking jobs, right? So the skills which require there, which you are also going to assess on, are basically your critical thinking. How are you going to challenge yourself to remove biases and traditional biases? How are you going to become learning oriented? I saw that Mukesh Ambani has also written in his main thing that he wants to create an excellence center which is teaching. The institute is teaching people to learning to learn, so that you become a continuous learner. And also problem solving skills, which will use many methods, the 5 why method, and various things, but it's not really technical. And of course, your communication skills will be a sort of a game changer in your. And I loved what you said about active listening, Abhishek. That is so important, because the questions asked are, you don't you have to ask yourself, what does the interviewer want to know? What is behind the question? What is not being asked? Is actually the, and listen carefully to understand, nod, be part of the conversation, speak, only concisely, etc. All that comes in. But that was a very good point. And also, I think what Amit said, that the first question is your driver seat question. Tell me something about yourself is not your biography. It is to put in those little things. Suppose I've volunteered with Udan, which the interviewer may not know much about. And that leads the interviewer to ask you the questions, and you get control of the interview. That was a very good point also that I had wanted to make. So I think Abhishek can tell us maybe
Yeah,
something more
thank you, ma'am. And Abhishek, when you talk about these domain skills, I'd like for you to highlight for our marketing and our sports management students in general about how can they showcase their domain knowledge. And with Amit, we'll kind of move into for our AI and DS students specifically, how can they really showcase and really kind of impress the academician also who's going to be there in the panel, that's going to be there. So over to you, Abhishek.
So I think it's a very simple in a way that I think the candidate first needs to check on themselves to say, am I a fresh student or a fresher coming in, or I'm someone with some experience? Now, if you have experience, particularly with marketing, but particularly with sales or business development, or if you're coming from not those domains but a different domains, the biggest question is, and it applies to a job interview as well as a campus interview, what is it that you have learned in your past or done in your past which gives you confidence and therefore will give me confidence that you can actually do the course? Right? So, what we are looking for from your past is, give me examples of your domain knowledge where you have applied it. Right? Because by virtue of experience, I have a very deep sustainability background. Funny, now I do learning and development. But if I were to ever interview with an electric vehicle company, then I better know everything about electric vehicles, the industry, about what is the power efficiency of a silicon cell, what percentage of inefficiency is there in the solar conversion to electric conversion. What's the biggest step in the solar industry which is going to happen? What about electric cars? Are electric cars truly sustainable or not? Right? Or maybe it's just a big tamasha that has been created. So by virtue of experience I have, and by the way, your experience could be as limited as 1 year or 6 months or 1.5 years or 2.5 years. But your experience must have examples, and you must bring out those examples very clearly to call out, hey, this is what I did. And if I ran my own Instagram page, I ran my own LinkedIn page. Here's the number of impressions I have. Here's that awesome post that I did. Because remember, everybody has a phone today, right? So you can quickly go and check it. Right? One of the things that has really impressed me is somebody says, I have a page. Why don't you go and have a look at it? There you create validation for yourself. And by the way, even if they don't look at it that time, at least in that 5 minute window when one interview switches to the other, they will look at it. And you have now given them the power of influence, not persuasion. Now they can look quickly through 10, 20 videos of yours and posts of yours and then make a complete picture of you and say, wow, that's a good candidate. That's a unique candidate. Now, here's an interesting question. What about the freshers? Right? You will say, Abhishek, I have nothing to show. Right? Because I just finished graduation and I saw some of the students in the Q&A sort of mention that, hey, I'm just a fresher. What do I talk about? Brilliant. Now what you need to show me is what Mr. Ambani very beautifully wrote, and I've seen it at the Geo campuses. I want to see that you have the ability to learn, right? And I'm going to teach you, I'm going to make you learn how to learn. Therefore, the biggest thing I want to understand from you is, Do you have learning agility? The concept is called learning agility or learning potential. Therefore, what you need to tell me, if you tell me that you're deeply interested in digital marketing or sports management, can you tell me whether this year which player in the IPL will cross the 20 crore rupee mark? You better know that. And how will you know that? Not that you're an insider at the IPL, is you should have done your research and you need to know the trends and more importantly the insights. Please remember, a lot of students fall for this trap. They talk about great data sets. Oh, do you know sports management market in India will grow by 20%? Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, data is cheap in this world. Data doesn't cost. Data is free. In fact, the people on the call made it free, right? Because of Jio and Reliance, data is free in our country. You don't pay for data. If you don't believe me, travel outside the world and you will know how much data costs. Data both on a phone and actual data on Google is free. Data has no value. Insights have value. So what is the trend? What is the analysis? What is your analysis? The moment you show me that skill and you show me that ability and that learning agility, I am convinced. Because as a fresher, if you can show me that learning agility, you know what? You could go to data science also, it doesn't matter. But more importantly, if you have shown me interest in that area, with let's say digital marketing or sports management, and you can show me the ability to understand the industry from outside, right, and call out a trend, wow, you have me seriously impressed, right? Um, and you know what? Academicians love insights, right? Because they know all the data. So you can't, please remember, you can't beat an academician on data, right? Don't try. Just don't try. But you can impress them with insights, right? Because if they have not thought about it, then they're super impressed. If they have thought about it and they sort of see the insight, now you're validated what they've said. And academicians love validation, right? They're extremely smart people. They want to feel like they've done something interesting. So yeah, I think those would be my thoughts around it.
Thanks, Abhishek. And I think they're very, very valid. I think you really need to know the subject well and need to know what you're talking. Fluff doesn't work, in interviews because the people sitting in front of you are probably a little bit more intelligent than you are and they know what they're doing there. Amit,
Sorry,
now
Ritu,
that.
can I add one more thought around
Sure.
that? Sorry, Amit, I apologize. I think fluff doesn't work here because these are not generic courses.
Yeah.
Please, this is not a generic MBA. This is not a generic BBA, right? You are coming in with eyes open to an institute which is really cutting edge, and they're bringing in very specialized, high quality courses, right, in a particular area. So I think if you're looking for something generic, then do generic. I think that would be my thought. As much as the admissions team will cringe at this point, he said, Abhishek, don't reduce our applicants pool. But I think genuinely so, right? These are some very awesome, very targeted, very specialized courses in a way. And then you need to be thoroughly in line with it. That's what I feel. Sorry. Go
Thank
ahead,
you.
please.
No, I think that's very valid. And Amit, before you start your answer, I would like to, I would, want to ask you another question is that a lot of people in AIDS specifically tell us that they come from various domains, right? Because they come from probably chemical engineering or civil engineering, some, of course, from computer science and IT. And mechanical, and they're all kind of, because as even Brenda ma'am mentioned, that AI and data science is something that's really kind of now applicable in all these domains. And a lot of people ask us that when we sit for interviews, and we come with a certain background or a certain major in our engineering, what are the questions, or how do these applications of AI and data science, relate to the domain that we come from?
Okay. So let me answer it this way. So there are three things that I want to talk about here. So first of all, given any kind of a domain knowledge or any technical skill questions, how do you answer it? So first thing is how do you articulate it? How do you communicate? So what we would love to see is someone who can communicate and articulate answer very with a certain kind of a structure. So what I would recommend is, and what I generally like to do, is follow some kind of a framework. So what are typical frameworks that you can follow? Say a car kind of a method. So what does it mean? So you state the context, you state the action, and then you state the result. And what are those domain knowledge related questions? So Ritu, you mentioned a very important point. Some of our candidates may not be from computer sciences, may not have that kind of an AI background. Maybe someone is a chemical engineer, someone is a mechanical engineer, but not that kind of a background. So how do we evaluate them on domain knowledge? So for this candidates, what we are looking for are two things. One is prepare on whatever you have written on your resume, whatever you have done in your undergrad. We would ask questions about what you have already done, because we want to know you. We want to know what is your learning orientation. We want to know what is your understanding of the subjects that you have already learned. We want to know what you have done in your work, how you have solved certain problems. So prepare on everything that you have written on your resume. Prepare on everything that you have done in your undergrad, including any projects that you have done in your undergrad. Prepare on whatever work that you would have done, or whatever projects that you would have undertaken in your work experience. Come prepared with certain examples. Whatever you have written, you can expect any questions on any pointer, any small pointer on your resume. We want you to discuss that. Second, and this is the second kind of question, so some kind of a technical questions, because see, what are you interviewing for? It's a master's program in AI and DS. So we expect a certain level as well. So even if you come from a chemical engineering background or a mechanical engineering background, but you are interested in AI and DS, we want to know what brings in that interest. How have you demonstrated that interest? Have you taken up any course? Are you aware of the developments in the industry? Are you aware of of some of the trends in AI? And are you aware of the fundamentals? Can you handle the mathematical rigor? Can you handle the rigor that you can expect in computer science? Do you have that computational thinking? So given a problem, can you break it down into sub problems and solve that? So they expect technical questions as well. So we expect certain base minimum know-how of those technical concepts. We expect a certain amount of mathematical rigor. We expect questions on, say, probability or statistics, some case study questions, or some kind of puzzles. So prepare yourself for that and know about your industry.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you, Amit. Sorry. And I think that is so valid, and just picking up from what Abhishek said, that, they are specialized programs. So you need to kind of prepare yourself for the program. There are a lot of questions on the Q&A as well, talking about how we kind of changing careers and moving into, from say, marketing to data science or things like that. But you need to understand that what you're getting into is something that you're going to be assessed on. Of course, there will be questions related to what you've done so far, but that point of that agility, the learning agility part that was very well mentioned in today's discussion, is that's something that, so of course we don't expect you to do a full-blown NLP question or an answer, is because that's what you will learn when you enter the institute. But will you be able to do it or not? And if you have that kind of mindset and skill set, that's what will be assessed, during these interview process. Ms. Bindu, would you like to add something to the technical question bit of the interview process?
Nothing much to be added, Ritu. I think all of them have thoroughly covered everything. So, like they say, prep, prep, prep. is very important. Display a learning orientation, because that's something, domain knowledge and learning orientation is, let it be any school, any institute, they're going to check that out for sure. Okay. And your concepts should be, fundas should be very solid, because if they are solid, anything can be built on it. That's important. And that's the important thing, that you display your learning orientation. Even if your concepts are good, anything else, how you show your passion, like Abhishek said, is very important. If you're following a rock group, how do you follow it all through? Show your passion that way. Let it be, even if you do not have the work experience, I am very consistent in doing this. That should be displayed and demonstrated in the interview. That's very important.
Thank you. And I think enough of the heavy. Let's come to a little lighter part of, and that's what my next question will be like. You know, interviews sometimes are perceived to be scary. And a lot of people in general are very nervous. Or just sometimes you very, you get up in the morning and you're very pumped and you're very confident, but as soon as you have that 2 minutes to enter that room, that sudden gush of nervousness or underconfidence kind of really pipes in. So what are your key pointers that you'd like to kind of give it to our applicants to not be nervous? And how does one cope up with this sudden nervousness, or just in general, people sometimes, very good candidates also are not able to get through because they just are not able to talk. So what are your tips on how to calm their nerves down? So again, we'll start with you, Brenda, ma'am.
To realize it, if you're if you're nervous or apprehensive about it, and you are you have some you're scared about how you're going to go through the interview, it's very normal. So everybody else is going through the same process. In fact, it's said that interviewing is the third thing that people fear the most, the first being death, the second public speaking, and interview. So it is very normal. So take it as that you have faced other challenges, right? So this is just one more. So that makes it a little easier also. And keep it conversational, as we've said. Don't make it into an interrogation. Be flexible about the outcome. Don't bother about the outcome. Just focus on the moment and what is being asked and reply. Leave the outcome out. Don't try to prejudge the outcome. That will also help you in your active listening, so that you're listening clearly to what answer to what is being asked, rather than thinking, what is the interviewer thinking about this? How is it, how is it impacting? Leave all that out. And of course, practice, as we've said, practicing mock interviews makes, is a great thing with your friends, your family. Or even in the mirror, practice all these questions, which Amit has said. Prepare your stories, use the CAR method or the SOAR method, which is, the situation, the obstacles. It's very important to speak about the obstacles. That is why in the start, obstacles, action and result. Obstacles very important, because that shows your problem solving skills, that shows your critical thinking, your innovative ideas. They say that it visualize your success, actually. And a few days before, actually visualize your success. These visualization successes exercises help. Deep breathing also helps. And be comfortable with imperfection. Don't expect to give perfect answers to all the questions. You will improve as you keep going on. Be comfortable with being asked unexpected questions, with being imperfect in your answers. And I think these are the sort of common things you would keep in mind, to keep it natural. Be authentic, be yourself. Just be comfortable. And remember, think of other successes that you've had in the past. So bring those to mind. So if you have had other successes, that will also, success builds confidence, right? So at every interview also you attend, you're building your confidence. So I think that's some of the ways you can make it uh, reduce your anxiety. Breathing exercises also, I think power posing, just before you enter the interview, and there's nothing like preparation and practice.
Thank you, ma'am. Abhishek, what are your key tips?
I think the biggest thing is and maybe I'll do three. Uh, I think the first thing is, remember, when you're here for the interview, someone saw something in you, right? So be happy about it, right? Um, and you will realize that it's okay. You got here, right? So I think be happy about it. We often take a lot of things for granted, right? And we do not celebrate the smallest things. You're nervous. It's absolutely fine. By the way, if you're nervous, it's fantastic. It means that the thing really means something to you. Because if you're going to an interview and you're not worried at all, that tells me that you don't care about it, either that job or that course or that program. You're just going through the motion. So if you're nervous, it's fantastic. It means the thing means something to you, right? And please remember, your interviewers are experienced and smart enough. They can see that. They can see that want and the need on your face, right? We've done enough interviews in our life to recognize that. We recognize hunger. You'll be very surprised. People can recognize hunger on your face, right? So I think that's number one. Please remember that you've gotten to this point, so celebrate it. Second, one of the things which always works for me whenever I'm nervous, especially when trying to meet a customer. I work with a lot of big edtech founders, and sometimes I'm overawed by the person that I'm going to speak to. I'm a little nervous. I'm pitching to them. Um, Even when I used to interview as an employee trying to get jobs, it's very nervous before my interview with the country managing director at Apple. I just remembered all the people in my life and my family, and it put a smile on my face when I entered the room. Now I just always think of my 4-year-old daughter, 4.5-year-old daughter. It gives me the most immense pleasure. It just makes me really happy. So think of your parents, think of your loved ones, think of your siblings, think of siblings who irritate you a lot. It'll put a smile on your face. Think of a girlfriend or boyfriend who you find very funny and you love deeply. Like, think of people you love, right? Think of you represent them in a way, right? And not to carry that burden of expectation, but rather think of the kind of joy would be on their faces when you crack this, right? So that gives you a lot of power, right? That gives you a lot of positivity. And it's something I'll say, and I shouldn't say this like I'm an old person, but young people today, particularly, you can you can see when they walk in with positivity, right? It's very, it's almost how do I say it? It's fantastic. Like you can breathe and smell it, right? When they walk in, the air changes in the room, right? It's it's uh, it's uh, it's almost magical, right? You can see that person brings in that energy, and they are talking with a particular tone. It's very different, right? You're a very confident bunch. We understand that, but we want to see that confidence. Don't kill it, right? Don't kill it on the altar of nervousness, right? I think the last thing is very simple, right? What if this doesn't happen? So what, right? Uh, you again, as I go back, I said you are a generation which is aspirational, right? You must do inspirational things. We were a generation which was desperate. We just did things because we had to. We had no option, right? So you have so many options. You have so many places you can go, so many places you can apply, right? You must be happy that an institute of that quality like Geo has called you for an interview. It means there is something great with you. And an interview is an interview. It's, the math works for you some days, it doesn't work for you some days. Please remember, it took Virat Kohli 3 years to score a century. And this is probably the man who's perfected his art, right? Sometimes it doesn't work out for you, it doesn't work out for you. You didn't give up cricket, right? By the way, he has access to the best performance coaches in the world. He doesn't even drink the water that you drink. He drinks some black water, which none of us can afford on this call, I guess. Maybe Ritu can. But he has access to everything and still could score a century for 3 years, right? So I think it's very important to remember that, right? That it's okay if it doesn't work out, then got something else. But you can't walk in with that interview thinking, oh, what if this doesn't work out? You're going to bomb it. You're going to bomb it really badly, right? Don't do that, right? By the way, it's very easy to say. I think all of us on the call can confidently say we bombed the interview here and there and bombed a conversation here and there. I've done it. I'll raise my hand, right? But hopefully it's not the Geo Institute. I, I would I would love it if the admissions committee would be struggling saying, who the hell we select right now? We have no idea, right? We've got such great candidates that everybody is making it so hard to select uh, who to take forward, right? And I think of it, just think of these people on the call and say, let's make their lives really, really hard, right? And yeah, take it from there.
I think we would love that problem to have.
I
And
just want to paraphrase so many things he said in 2 sentences.
sure, ma'am.
One is that the very fact you've been called for an interview and so many applicants may have been there, you passed the first test. That means they think you are eligible. One. Secondly, reframe that fear as excitement, as he has said. Just two, points, great points which you've made.
Thank you. And I agree. I think, just just enter thinking that you've done it already and you've done it. Just have that mindset, and I think you've got it. That's what I do, at least. And I think that really helps me, just enter, difficult rooms with a lot of ease. Amit also meets a lot of difficult people on a daily basis. So, Amit, what do you have to say, for this, for these just the students that are going to appear for the interviews?
See, first of all, we have to accept. Acceptance is important. Everyone gets nervous, and it is very natural to get nervous. So what can you do? What can be your means to overcome this? So you have to find your own means. There are certain tips that people can give. So we have talked about it. Brenda ma'am gave the visualization technique that you can do, or you can practice some deep breathing. But what one important thing that I believe, which works for me, is getting that good night's sleep before any interview. If you have something important the next day, try to make sure that you get a very good night's sleep. You should get adequate amount of rest, at least 8 hours of sleep. That will really, really help. Second, eat healthily before the interview. Don't have pizza or any other meal that you would not like to have. Eat healthy before the interview. And third is practice. Practice as much as you can. Practice with your friend, practice with family, practice with whoever you can. That's the only three things that I would like to add. That's it.
Thank you. And I think they are so valid. I mean, we talk about such, intellectual and high level things, but these are the basics that one should not miss at all. If because you're not your best, then anything that you've done so far in your life, you will not be able to communicate. So, have saved that energy for the interview and not waste it at, anything that you're doing. Heems, what do you have to say?
I'm going to give you reassuring news, and that is from the other side of the table, where it is stress interviews are a thing of the past.
Yeah.
Nobody believes in them any longer. We believe the candidate should be given an environment which is empowering to them, and they perform their best. Who would want to pin somebody down and extract something? We would want them to share their knowledge and give their best facets to the interviewer. And so even the interviewer has been trained on how to take an interview. So do not worry about it. They're not here to be judgmental about you and be biased about you, but they've been trained to give you the best environment to empower you to perform to your best ability, to display what you know. Okay. And there are instances where it has become a stress interview and the whole interview has been negated so that they can be re-interviewed, because we believe that's not the right environment for a candidate to display his best features. So this is news from the other side, which should be reassuring to you. And don't worry about it at all. And if you get nervous, it's absolutely fine. Say, can I take a break of 5 minutes? Can I take a fiver? Can I have a sip of water? And, try and distract the thing. And a lot of interview panel members also realize this and say, why don't you take a walk and come back? We're happy to do it after some time. And that's how they've been trained. So don't worry about it. If you need a break, express it so. Very natural to be there. Okay. So, but this is a life-changing thing for you. Don't let these things get to you. Take that break. Talk to the thing. We appreciate that you've been confident enough to ask us for that time. Go out, have a walk, and come back. Chill and do your best. That's important also.
Thank you. And I think, words spoken by a very wise lady who's taken, I think, interviews collectively more than all of us. Keep those things in mind. It is very important for you to accept what you're feeling at that moment. Don't, as we started the conversation with, be authentic. Don't try to hide or lie or whatever. The facade that's on, because as Abhishek very rightly said, it's already too much in the world. We don't want it anymore. And I know we are kind of really reaching the end of today's session, but I'm going to ask one last question to our panelists, and that's also one common question that our applicants asked today, is that what are a few things that one should not do during an interview? And very quickly, we'll just have one or two of them from every one of you. And probably this time I'm going to start it from the end. So, Heems, would you like to start with what should one not do in an interview?
What you should not do is try a sense of humor if you're not very confident. Okay, it requires a lot of confidence, so that's very important. And do not do that. Lie or be anything that you are not. Pretend to be anything that you are not, unless it's very good to say, I'm sorry, I do not know the answer to that. Okay. And proceed with something else. And I can sing too, maybe, or whatever you want to do. But that requires a lot of confidence and other things to do. But, do not be something that you are not. Create a facade and, try and pretend these things. If you do not know, just say so. Or like if Amit asks me a question, I will say, sorry, dude, I'm not an engineering person. Let me ask me something creative and I'll probably give you a copyright law. That way. Try and do these things, but do not pretend to be what you are not. Okay, that's very important.
Thank you. Amit?
Yeah.
So active listening is very important, and answering the question correctly is important. Joe, don't just jump to answering the question. Listen to it first and then answer. Don't be too fast. Avoid speaking too fast. Avoid speaking too slow. So be okay. Don't go off topic.
Thank you. Abhishek? You're on mute.
Whatever happens, please do not lose energy in an interview. It sucks the life out of an interview. The moment you lose energy, it sucks the life out of the room, the call. it's with everything in life. If you're pitching anywhere, if you have energy, people believe, and people know that you're making a mistake, by the way. Yeah, it's one of the hardest things in the world to do. You're making the mistake, but still they have the energy up, right? And I think that's very impressive. It's very impressive. It's very attractive in young people, right? Because we don't expect you to be robots, right? We're not interviewing AI, and right, and AI is not interviewing you, right? If the human beings interviewing you, they understand it. I think the biggest thing is, so number one is energy. I think one more thing I would say is to not get it, and it sometimes happen, do not get into an ideological or a philosophical argument with an interviewer, right? Do not make it a, this is my opinion versus your opinion and your opinion is bad. I, you know what, you may have an interviewer, um, and it's very humbling for us on the other side. You may know more than us actually, right? And you're more likely to know more than us because uh, we held a phone when we were in college or far later or whatever. You held a phone when you were probably even, not even 6 months, right? So you have access to everything that we've not had for when we were even 20, 25 years old. So yes, you are ahead of us, absolutely. But by virtue of hitting somebody's ego, you may blind the interviewer with their own ego. Please remember, they are a human being. They are susceptible to the same things that you are. So if you blind the interviewer with their ego or with their ego trigger, you cannot fault them for not liking you. They're a human being. They're not AI, right? So even it's called the false positive, right? You may be um, you may be the right person, but I may not see you as the right person, right? So I think those are two things I would say are non-negotiables. To not get into an argument or a ideological or philosophical discussion. Do not get triggered or trigger the interviewer, and more importantly, keep the energy. That's all.
Thank you, Brenda ma'am.
I would say one thing, that don't leave the interview before, end the interview without asking questions. Sometimes asking the right questions makes more of an impression than, the questions you've answered. So make sure you have a list of 5 or 6 questions. My own, or, sort of recommendation is that you actually write them down and read from there, because that gives the impression that you have actually put thought into it. So suppose you were going for, the geo interview, you may ask like, what are the methodologies of, is it experiential learning, and are there other sort of self-paced courses that you would have access to, or how would this program help to prepare you for dealing with the challenges of AI, or whatever relevant to that with. But never leave the question, because I know people who have actually been the toppers in the class and expected to in an IIM, and expected to definitely get the first day job, didn't get it just because of this. No questions answered means shows, like he says, less interest, less energy. You haven't put thought into that. So that then shows you, so never leave without that, and without thanking the interviewer, or without taking the coordinates. So, asking what is the next process, when will we know the follow-up of the process. But asking questions, I think, is a must.
Thank you. And I think this really brings us to the end of our conversation today. And I think we've received a lot of questions, and which we were probably not able to answer so much during our panel discussion. And they are probably a little bit more personalized regarding your own, profile. What we want to say is that whatever tips that you've received today, try and implement that in your personal profile, and see where you stand. The idea of this particular session was not to give you a ready-made answer, but to kind of just prepare you better, or just make you understand what are you entering into. And as Zeems very rightly mentioned, that we all sincerely want you to perform well. That's why we did this. We are all rooting for you. We want you to really make our life very difficult. Like Abhishek said, that we get to choose from the best of best, and we're up for it. We have a great team working very hard to do these interviews for you, to ensure that you do really well. And we at Geo Institute are really looking forward to having this process with you. And I, on behalf of the whole team and all our panelists here, wish you all the very best for these interviews. Do well, don't be nervous, and we know you got this. So once again, thank you, Brenda ma'am, Abhishek, Amit, Ms. Bindu, for doing this for our students. And if you have final thoughts to give to our applicants, we'd love to hear it from you.
Thank you, everybody. I thank all the panelists for sharing the invaluable inputs on this. I'm sure a lot of students have benefited, not just from, I think it's interview season coming through whole of December and January, and it has been, will be of great help to all of them. I see a lot of questions out there, which majority of which I'm sure we will answer on a personal basis, one-on-one through email. But I would like to address the question as to when are the interviews going to be called out? How will we know about it? It is a rolling process. So interview calls are going out starting this week, and they'll be going on till the end of January. So if you do not get a call, don't worry about it, because there are 3 different programs and 2 different levels of evaluation. It is happening on a rolling basis. So all the applicants who are on this call, rest assured, you can expect a call up till Jan end. It's going on. So not to worry about it. How can you say no to an answer you do not know? Be very polite and say, sorry, I do not know this answer. Would you like to ask me anything else? Okay. And how do I explain gaps in my career is one question I'm asking. Or I've been preparing for my civil services, and how do I address that? It is a lot of people, we in fact give in the application question which says, is there anything else you would like to tell about yourself, or how do you want to explain? Use this space to explain the gap in your career, or in an interview. Trying for something which you're very passionate about is not wrong about it, but also show how you were active during this period while you were studying for that and prepping for that, and what were your, how did you occupy yourself other than, just following just civil services tests or something like that. Maybe you were doing voluntary work, or you were doing, some digital things. Showcase these, try and address it that way. These are some of the things which are coming on. We'll try and answer all these individually later on, or probably have another session to cover those questions. And thank you so much. Appreciate all of you joining us. And Amit, Mrs. Mendes, and Abhishek, thanks a ton for being there for all of us. Thank you.
Ritu,
Yeah,
can I just add one thing, if that's
Yeah.
okay?
yes.
I would just say to everybody on the call, inspire us, guys and girls, because we want. I think the institute will very nicely say this, that they want something fresh. These are very different courses. These are very unique courses, right? And inspire us, right? I think bring your stories, bring your experiences. I think we want to be inspired, right?
True.
Absolutely. Yes, Brenda ma'am.
I just want to say one last word. Don't neglect your social media presence and your LinkedIn brand. Please keep building your brand from today, not only for this interview, but for all interviews. And you'll be having many more of them with many transitions. Please, please start. If you have not started, start creating your personal brand. Even CEOs are doing it. Please don't.
Yeah.
Create a.
Amit, any final words from you?
Yes, and it is based on the question that that Hema ma'am answered. So there can be certain questions where students, where the candidates will not know the answer. Don't let that thought suck your energy that you don't know the answer. Don't lose confidence. We are here to select you, not to reject you. We are looking for reasons to select you. We don't want to reject you. We want the best. We would find other reasons to select you. We would ask other questions. So, be authentic, prepare as much as you can, and stay positive.
Thank you. And once again, thank you, everyone. And to everybody who's joined us, good luck and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you.